Thanks so much, Kelly. Yeah, it's good to see everybody. I have not been able to attend the last couple of these, so I'm glad to be back and chatting about marketing and promotion with everyone. So, like Kelly mentioned, Jody and I are going to talk a little bit about the talk program, and we kind of thought it was a good time to just check in with people about it, just because it can help with a lot of things. As we're all experiencing different types of challenges related to COVID, we kind of thought the opportunity to talk about something that is, doesn't rely on in-person type things, and as a way to kind of spread the word about library and literacy and activities that you can do without necessarily relying on in-person programming. And it's kind of a way to still kind of keep your library presence out there in the world and spread some good vibes and good education out into the world. So Jody is going to go ahead and kind of talk about what the talk program is for anybody who might not already be familiar with it. I know it's something that a lot of libraries in Michigan are using, but in case it's something that's not yet familiar to somebody on this call, she'll kind of go over what it is and how it works, and then I'll talk a little bit after that about ways that we're promoting the program, and then how the program kind of helps with just library promotion and marketing generally. So I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm on the right thing. Guys, hold on. Sorry. Are we seeing the PowerPoint now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And it's on the introduction to talk?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I think, yeah, Jody, you go ahead and you just let me know when you kind of want me to start checking through the slides, and I'll just let you take it away now.
Okay, so we can go on to the next one. And if you tap it, then more text comes up. So basically, TALK stands for Text and Learn for Kindergarten. And it's an early literacy text messaging service that was developed with LSTA funds in 2017. We wanted a way to reach parents with messages that we would usually give at story times. And we had seen that other libraries and statewide systems were sending these activity suggestions for parents to help get kids ready for school. And so we applied for LSTA funding through, which is IMLS delivers to the states. And we were awarded a grant. We worked with Dexter, Milan, Saline Libraries, and Whitmore Lakes Library, Northfield, and developed this program. It automatically is set up. We have a whole database of text messages, and MCLS has helped us develop a new platform that automatically sends 2 messages every week based on a child's age. And that all runs all the time once a parent signs up. So we'll go on to the next slide. And this kind of shows you that there is a continuum all the way from birth to age 6 of these activity suggestions. We had HighScope, which writes the curriculum for about half the Head Start programs in the United States, helped us level the text. So there are a couple of ways that a parent can sign up. They can either fill out an online form, and Sam's going to show you that website in a minute. But more commonly, they might see a poster or an interior bus ad or something else out in the community that tells them to text the word TALK to a short code, which is 75547. And once they do, they only need 2 pieces of information. We wanted to make it so there weren't any barriers to signing up. So they need to put in a child. They can put 1 or 2 children's birth dates, and that tells the system where to drop them on this continuum. And from then on until they hit stop, these automatically send, and they progressively get more challenging as children near kindergarten. So at the beginning, they might get a message about look into your baby's eyes and talk back and forth because that's the beginning of a conversation and a connection with your child. And towards kindergarten, they might be like working on money or some counting by fives or something like that. And so that's how the system basically works. And the other piece of information that they have to enter is their zip code. And the reason for the zip code is that ties them to a library, because libraries are able to send 2 messages a month on top of these automatic messages. So basically, like I've already said, the messages, the activities are each tailored to the child's development. They were reviewed by parents at Head Start and by a literacy organization that we work with to make sure they're accessible. They don't need anything that's beyond what's commonly available in houses. They're frequently things you do while you're like doing the laundry or grocery shopping. And they also link back to the website and give parents like extensive book lists and the lyrics to songs and things like that. So those are the automatic messages. And then what the library sends twice a month, they get to compose their own message about, we call them event messages, but basically now when a lot of libraries haven't been necessarily having the same level of events and story times, you can send like a service message too. You can also use your free messages to send notifications from like a community partner. One thing that we're looking at is letting the ISD that tell people that are signed up when enrollment begins for Head Start, and if letting them know about early on so that they can get their child like appropriate services if they're experiencing any developmental delays. And so there are all kinds of things that you can use, but basically it's a text message. So you only have 160 characters. You need to identify your library and then link back to it so that people can click on a link and get the full information about whatever program or service that you're advertising. And like I mentioned this a little bit, we started just as early literacy, but there are a lot of like early STEM skills and emotional development and things like that. So it covers like a full range of skills. And at this point, we have applied, once we ended the end of that LSTA funding, we knew that either the program needed new funding or it was going to have to go away. And so we applied for a national leadership grant from IMLS, and that was awarded. And so now we're working with other organizations. Like I said, MCLS is the one that's helped us get the technology going and built a platform that distributes these broadly. And we're working with HighScope is running an evaluation. They're checking in with libraries soon to see how it's going so we can make improvements for libraries, and then they'll begin to evaluate the impact on parents and children. And then Library of Michigan has been helping us get the word out to everybody. So right now, any parent or caregiver in Michigan can sign up. And then if a public library signs up, then they have the ability to send those extra messages to connect with people in their community. And the benefit is of libraries promoting it. It gives the library something that they can talk about, like it's an actual service that can be used to get the word out about the library. So your Storytime families probably would immediately sign up and enjoy it, but if you can get community partners to advertise, like Sam's going to talk about, then it gets the message out to new people, both about ways to improve school readiness in the community, and then also hopefully bring more people like back to the library. So it's based on Every Child Ready to Read, so it automatically aligns with your story times that the librarians are doing, and helps libraries partner. So it's really like a special thing that's designed just for libraries. And I think that is about it, because Sam's going to go into detail about all the posters and everything, but this is the current map of the libraries that are signed up. And if you visit texttolearn.com, there's a libraries tab and you can see like a live map. This is just a Google map. And so you can click and see if you're not sure if your library already signed up. And if they did, then I am able to tell you who the primary contact is so that you can get it going. So if you are interested, if your library hasn't signed up and you want to sign up, then that's how you click the buttons, get more information about Talk there in the middle, the blue button. And then if you scroll all the way down, Sam, can libraries work together? Then you'll find the map and you'll be able to see if your library already signed up. If you have any questions about it at all, like about who the contact person is, our email is just talk@ipselibrary.org. So this kind of like shows you can explore the website a little bit if you're interested in knowing more about it. And then I think, Sam, I'm ready to turn it over to you, and I will put those, the different things into the chat, the links.
Yeah, I was just going to mention we can put some links into the chat, and particularly I think this was the last slide that Jody had. It kind of leads into what I was going to talk about. But if you are already using Talk and you haven't been using the promotional materials that are available to you, please do let us know, because part of kind of being involved with this does give you access to kind of some pre-made materials that you could use and kind of customize to your library with your library logos and things. And there are materials that are in English and Spanish. There's graphics for social media posts, QR code designs, all this kind of stuff that you can take advantage of. So do let us know after we go through this if that's something that you have questions about, if you are, if your library is using Talk, but you haven't had access to these or have questions about using those promotional materials. So I wanted to, Kelly, I wanted to ask, by the way, since I am kind of sharing my screen now, I'm also getting these messages about people entering the waiting room. Is it okay for me to just
Yes,
admit them?
please admit everybody, yes.
Okay. I assumed so, but I didn't know how worried we were about,
Nope.
hangers on or something.
Nope, I figure if you found this link, you're here for a reason, so.
All right, so, sounds good. So some of this will kind of just be reinforcing things that Jody was mentioning, but really I wanted to get into the benefits of using this as kind of a promotional tool and a promotional service for your library. Like she mentioned, this is really, it kind of hits on library missions just like pretty spot on. I mean, it's a tool for literacy. It's accessible. Like when we were first in the planning stages of this and figuring out how best to implement it and roll it out, it was very intentional that we chose it as a text messaging program, because it was kind of what the data that we were seeing showed, is that pretty much if you're talking about something that is accessible to as many people as possible, it's getting them on their phone is the way to go. And so it's a lot of intentionality went into this as a tool that really kind of will work for everyone. It doesn't require special equipment. It doesn't require people to go out and buy things. It's really reliant on things that people will have and be able to kind of jump in. And it's kind of trying to demystify literacy as a thing that, takes a lot of extra stuff that people don't have. It's kind of trying to really, really promote that to parents. And so it's kind of a nice way to get your library out into the community with a tool like this. And so really this library resource for patrons, it really is the same as anything that you'd promote in your collections, any new materials that you'd want to promote. It's a thing that you can kind of showcase that, your library is helping to get out there in your community. So I wanted to reinforce that again. And then Jody mentioned as well the community connections with other agencies. If we're talking about, your relationships with schools, hospitals, other places that kind of display materials, this is something that, is a mission for a lot of organizations potentially in your community. And so getting something out there that is a tool for people to use that also has your library logo on it, that really kind of just is around the community that people will bump into. It kind of is a way to reinforce your library as a piece of your community. And so wanted to kind of reinforce that again with these marketing tools and graphics that you'll have access to. Like, it's a really hopefully simple way for you to kind of print out these things and display them in places that will get your library a lot of exposure for places that people are going in the community. Yeah, I mentioned community service. Everybody, you know, can be invested in literacy and helping kids grow. And so that's kind of not just a library service, it's really a community service. And so that's a really, again, a way to reinforce those connections. I mentioned that it's easy for them to use. It doesn't require a lot of extra tools. It's a way for them to engage and get prompts for engaging with their kids. Again, as Jody mentioned, some of those texts are just really straight up ways that you can use it to promote your library programs. You can kind of choose, I think it was 2, I believe, every month that you can promote. And so it's, you know, a way to put that directly in front of people who will be interested in library programs. And so it's another way to get that information out there as well. So that's kind of just an overview of like why we thought this would be kind of a good thing to talk about with this group, because it's a really kind of an easy way to kind of expand marketing efforts generally for your library. And so I wanted to, sorry, I'm admitting some more people. My apologies. So then I was kind of going to just talk briefly about some specific ways that you can use the tools, or some specific things that you can do for helping to promote talk if you are a library who is already using it. And the first thing we wanted to talk about was QR codes. QR codes are kind of funny to me these days because they seem like they used to be a thing that people kind of sniffed at a little bit, and they weren't really using them quite as much when they first came out. But now it seems like, especially in the age of COVID, they are a tool that are really kind of being used in a lot of different ways by a lot of different people. And so it seems like kind of the time for QR codes has come back around. And so we have some QR code graphics that you can use. And one of the things that you can do with them is make them into stickers. And you can either share them kind of as stickers with community partners. You can put them on like books that you might be donating to places. You can honestly just give them to staff and kind of have them, you know, do fun things with them. Librarians, especially youth librarians, are a pretty creative bunch, as I'm sure I don't have to say here. But you might find kind of some surprising ways that you can integrate those stickers into kind of the library environment. Laminating them as a more kind of permanent basis and putting them into kind of play kits or other items that circulate is another way to kind of get that talk message out there for folks that you know, are using kind of tools that are related to you know, items that you would find that would come up in one of the talk messages. And so it kind of really kind of gels very well with play kits or similar things to that. We've got little free libraries all around our community. You can kind of put stickers up around little free libraries that people would be looking at. And then I'm pretty regularly adding it to our library newsletters, signage that we have around, or the monitor displays that we have like in the lobbies of our areas. I'm kind of making sure that putting anything that makes it anything that is a place where people won't have easy ability to type in a website. I think QR codes really, you know, obviously are things that work really well there. And so newsletters particularly, or signage or on monitors where people might just be walking past it, it makes it easy for them to check it out while it's at the top of their mind. Jody was mentioning these flyers. These are part of the marketing tools that are available. These are kind of things that can work work well as evergreen materials in your library. I've got an example of one here that they basically can be something that has one of the specific tips that might be one of the texts appearing here so that people can kind of see what it is. And then it's kind of got the information on how to join. And then you can kind of add QR codes to this, as I was mentioning, but then also you'll notice down here is where you can kind of add your library specific information. So it's kind of everything's already put together with the Talk branding, and then you can add your library information here to get that information kind of linked in your community. So if these are displayed in lobbies of doctors' offices or that sort of thing, it's kind of a useful tool that people are looking at while they're sitting, and they're also seeing your library information right there. So really, again, as I mentioned, it's a really good way to kind of integrate your brand in the community using these flyers. And we have templates for 8.5 by 11, or I believe 11 by 17 as well. And so, you could do smaller or larger batches of them. And they're, it can be a range of things too. Like if you are putting them around your library and you kind of want to be rotating them a lot, you can just print them out at your library. You can get them if you have printers that you use to kind of print small batches of a little, more professionally printed with glossy paper, that sort of thing. You can do that too. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use these. And then I wanted to point out too that one thing we see, and that would be a good kind of tag along for these flyers as well, as if for anyone who has a 1,000 books before kindergarten program, using that promotion in conjunction with Talk is kind of a really good way to kind of boost visibility for both of those programs for your library.
I had one more thing too, Sam.
Sure.
I forgot to mention earlier that all of those materials, they come with blank bubbles too, so that you can put your own message in. So if it fits somewhere, like I created a new one for farmers markets because I was reaching out to like the statewide farmers market organization. And so you can like really like target it with anybody. And that one was kind of like we envisioned in a apartment mailroom, but really you have a lot of flexibility with these to make them however you need to use them.
Yeah, thank you. And then social media obviously is a tool we're all really using a lot these days with the various stages of opening that we're in. And so this is really kind of a nice way to get some variety to your social media content. As I mentioned, there's general graphics that advertise Talk, but there's also, you can use poster graphics to provide those specific tips in the message. And then with social media, since it's kind of all about engagement and relating with people, you can also, if people are comfortable with it, and if it fits with kind of what you have generally been doing, it's an opportunity to ask people to kind of share pictures of them doing the stuff that Talk is, telling them that they can do. So if people are comfortable with that, that's kind of a way that you can kind of promote some engagement as well. This is an example of our newsletter. That was another way that I had mentioned, using another tool that you can use to promote Talk and get the word out. And so this is a part of the school page spread that we have in our newsletter. So typically we will at least have this that you'll notice, just the QR code and the information about it so that it stays kind of in front of people. But then we also relatively regularly will have kind of actual article updates with more information about, what it is that, when we got the grant to expand the program that Jody was mentioning, we kind of had an article about that and kind of the work that went into it. So it's kind of the newsletter, if you have one, is another way that you can, kind of plug library content to your community. And then adding it to your website. This is something that we've got it. This is the page of just kind of some a snippet of search results that came up just so I could show you the different types of things we had about it. But we have, you know, a page on our website that you can see that's devoted to it that kind of takes people to that text to learn page, but then it's also up here in our services area as well for people to get to. And then we also have kind of, as I mentioned, blogs with news updates that we will post regularly about it as well. And it's also something that you can kind of integrate with other, you know, story time type activities that you might be posting on your website. Like, I know we're in the middle of, Jody might be able to talk a little more about this since it's kind of just starting, but we're kind of doing a series of videos that kind of relate to talk activities. So we're kind of posting videos and using that as an opportunity to, you know, give people content that is useful to them, but also spreading the word about talk and keeping talk at the top of people's minds as well.
Yeah, it's just like what most libraries are experiencing right now. We were in person with our story times for a minute, and then with the rising rates right now, we called off the winter season. And we know that parents with babies or toddlers don't really want to watch like a live stream story time. We just weren't getting that many attendees. And so by making like really short videos that are based on talk or just one song, that's kind of what Sam was referring to, that we're, instead of doing the live story times right now, we're kind of trying to figure out other ways to reach people with this information.
Okay. And I think that actually might be, I forgot to put a closing slide in there. Sorry, Jody. But I think that's kind of what I wanted to kind of give as an overview, just in terms of, like I said, we just wanted to give a brief intro to the program if people weren't familiar with it, but then also I wanted to give some very general ways that you could kind of integrate it with library marketing and communication that you're doing. And so I wanted to close just by saying, you know, thanks again for letting us talk about it. And hopefully, if you're using it, you're finding that it's working out very well. And if you're not, then we're definitely available to kind of answer questions about it if you have them, or if you have marketing questions about it generally. Like, I think we can just open it up for that, I suppose, at this point, because I think I got through at least what I wanted to talk about. So.
And I can add like a couple things in the folder. Once you sign up, there are like press releases, and part of what Library of Michigan is helping us do is to try to make the larger connections. So like with the state parks and the law enforcement and things like that, we're trying to build those bigger connections to help you, like, more parents across the state use it, so that you're not totally on your own trying to find users in your community. And so there are a lot of tips that you can use, like within the folders, that are more about building partnerships and things like that too, that we didn't really go into, but there's quite a bit of stuff to try to help you figure out how to like form new relationships with people in your community about early literacy.
Well, thank you so much. I'll kick off the questions. Has there been a place in particular you found, like, we talked a lot about promoting within the library. Have you found a way to promote it outside of the library that's worked well?
I think like the best for us was the school, because I think most libraries automatically have a relationship with their school district. And then even looking bigger, because we created this with other libraries in Washtenaw County, looking at the ISD level and having, if you get the people who are the early on home visitors and the people who are in the Head Start, if you can like get them to buy into it, and then you provide the printed out materials for them to send home to every parent and to remind parents, it like gets the word out so much further than just the library. So I would say starting with the school was really important. And we also had a lot of success through the ISD with their Success by Six program. they have trusted parent advisors that are paid to work directly with the community. And they were like selling talk door to door to in like lower income communities for us. So that was really important. And when we were in person, we made a connection with WIC, and we would go in to talk to parents in the WIC office a couple times a week. And then we were also involved with an organization that was getting materials to new parents at the hospital. And so those are, I think, some of the most successful partners, as well as our sheriff. We had some youth violence in the summers that was happening, and still does in some of the underserved parts of the community. And the sheriff is very proactive about trying to give alternate activities to people in those areas. And so every summer they go door to door and distribute both information about our summer learning challenge and talk. Sam can tell us how many we printed, but we like definitely got them a lot of information. If it was like 2,000 flyers or something that they distributed for us.
Yeah, if something like that. I think it was like 1,500 or 2,000. Yeah, and that, yeah, it's been, like Jody mentioned, the schools for sure have been a huge partner, and that, you know, one of the reasons we were kind of doing a fresh batch of outreach with this is that, you know, with some of our outreach programs that have been on pause due to the pandemic, it hasn't been quite as seamless with the in-person kind of connections. And so we've been doing a lot more kind of trying to do digital reaching out, putting it in more places that are reaching people without relying on them being in person. And so been doing more about, you know, trying to get talk and other info about the library in the school newsletters, and, you know, when we're not able to kind of reach them at outreach events and that sort of thing. But yeah, Jody mentioning the sheriff was also huge, because yeah, that interrupters program that they did in the summer is that's kind of, I think, something every year that we give them, and it's just an opportunity to get that information in front of a lot of people.
Thank you. That's a lot of, I hadn't thought about connecting like with the local police department, but I can, you know, like in Southfield, I know, right, the two people I'm gonna, you know, connect with and see how we can work with them. What other excuse me, what other questions from the group do we have? Feel free to pop up in chat or unmute yourself.
Hey, Joey Late, how many subscribers do you have?
Do you mean in our service area or across the street right now?
In your
our
service area.
I think we're around 300 people.
How long did it take you to build that?
We had quite a few right off because it was before COVID, and we were doing like a countywide push where we had a big play date where we did like a major promotion, and we kind of like lined up everybody that we were working with in terms of schools before, and we just were able to like do a lot of in-person like explanation of the program, and then hey, it's like started. And we probably had, I don't know, it was like 150 kind of immediately. Those people do age out, because when they hit their 6th birthday, they're automatically get a congratulations, your child is ready. And then there are probably a quarter of people just get tired of seeing the messages and they opt out. So, you know, you're constantly kind of like rebuilding with new people. Some people just don't want to have that much, that many text messages coming to their phone. Other people love it. It's kind of like a personal choice to continue it.
You're probably putting it everywhere. It's on your website, it's on your Facebook, it's on the QR codes. It's all fronts. You're putting it out there.
Yeah, it's trying. I mean, you know, like anything else, we're trying to kind of balance the promotion of this with other things as well, and not, you know, get people burned out on talk, especially since it's not, you know, a new launch or anything like that. But yeah, that kind of, you know, not letting them get burnt out on the text messages too. Like, I think it's a couple of weeks, so it's, you know, not something every day that's getting in people's, you know, phones and everything. So it's yeah, a balance of trying to do all that.
And right now we have bookmarks. So the first thing that we printed during COVID with the new phone number was were bookmarks, and we put them like in all of our activity kits. I don't know if other people were sending out supply kits, but we would stick something in there about talk and everything that was going like out to little ones or families. And we have them at all the desks. And then also, like Sam said, trying to share those flyers digitally. I mean, it's definitely more of a challenge right now, but if you can get other people to share, then that's really what's helping promote it. Because everybody you're reaching already, of course, they're gonna like appreciate it, but it's trying to reach those users that are further out that you don't see, both because they might be the people who need this information more if they're not able to come to the library for story times at the traditional time, or for whatever reason, or they're not comfortable coming to the library. But it takes these partnerships to get that message out. But I think if you can like think about who you already work with and try to see if they'll share the digital flyer with all the students at the school district or something like that, that's really a way to get the word out.
And that's kind of dovetailing off of that. Another community kind of connection source that I forgot to mention was there. I don't know what this would be like in all of your communities, but our community has a couple of different like groups where different community organizations, like the sheriff, like the corner health center, like the health department, just public service, community service organizations kind of have a couple of different groups here that just meet regularly in the library. Usually myself or our other outreach person will attend, every week, or one of them is every month. And so that's another outlet that will, like not every time because we've got other stuff to promote, but that's another outlet where, when we're attending these community meetings, getting that word out or getting a flyer to those community groups in that setting is a way to kind of pass that info along to them to help share. Anything else? Did we cover it so brilliantly that there was?
All right, we've got a question in chat here. If we have zip codes that are library services, is the library able to get statistics for how many people are signed up for talk in our area?
Yes, you can. Once you have the MCLS account, which is how you send the event messages, there is a report feature, and you can look like date by date. So you can kind of see the progression of when people signed up. And then you can also see per zip code, and you can break it down by age. So when you send these messages, like we have one area that's served by what's going to be a new library, but right now is a very small library. And sometimes we'll target the message just to the people in that area. And you can target the different areas of your population if you have a larger library system that has multiple zip codes. And then you can also target it just to an age group. So like if you're doing baby story time and you just want to send it to people with 0 and 1-year-olds, then you can do that as well. And then you can see the data. You can't see how many people open the messages, but you can see how many you're sending to, and kind of like chart the progress so that you can report back to your board or report back to your community partners about how the service is growing and who you're reaching.
Amy says, thank you in the chat. So do we have any other questions for Sam and Jody?
Thank you guys so much for letting us come and share, and feel free to reach out anytime. You could either email Sam or you can email the talk that I put in the chat, talk@ypsilibrary.org, and we'll answer questions and help you get started however we can.
Well, thank you. It's a wonderful program. I'm glad you guys kind of spearheaded it, and that is, early literacy is such important that it dovetails, with what, if we can hook them into the library early, hopefully we keep them for life. So
Yeah, and we're hoping, so like right now, just for the future, we're offering this in Michigan. And then the reason High Scope is evaluating libraries experiences, then we're going to expand to Indiana. And we've been in contact with ALSC. So we hope, like, if it's useful for libraries and you find that you're successful with it, we can, keep it going longer. So thank you for everybody who's using it.
thank you. Hopefully we could get this out to all 50 states. So
Yeah.
Thank you guys for letting us talk about it.
Mhm. Well, thank you.
I'll open it up for if there's any more questions for Sam, for Jody, or just in general right now. We got a few minutes left.
Again, I was late. Anything that is sent out, the activity suggestions, Talk generates that? Do
Mhm.
you have?
Yeah, it's like an automatic thing. So once somebody signs up, they are put in like a continuum of developmentally appropriate text messages that go from birth to 6. And so their age, the birth date of their child determines that, and it automatically sends twice a week. And then the library messages are like 2 per month on top of that. And so everything's running automatically through MCLS except for libraries who choose to send a message.
The people who already
Sorry,
signed up
Jeff.
for that, the people who signed up are also signed up for the newsletter portion?
The newsletters just I send to the libraries that are participating,
Okay,
and to help give tips about what you might try to like get it going. But
Okay.
yeah, and then the parents just get the messages.
gotcha.
We don't have any private information, like I don't have emails or names or anything like that, just the birth date and the zip code.
So the library itself, if our library did it, we aren't that hands-on with it. It seems like it's all plug and play.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we see it kind of like a service you might get through the Library of Michigan. Or if you have like the map passes or something, it's kind of like a
Gotcha.
service you can promote and brand, but you don't
Okay,
have
cool.
to do much with it. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
We do have a question in the chat, and that's Farrell's asking if everyone can get a copy of the presentation. So Sam and Jody, if you want to send me the PowerPoint, I will gladly email that out to the group and out, along with the recording of the meeting later today.
Sure.
And then I have a question. Do libraries get to choose when, like the 2 messages a month that we get to send, do we get to choose when they get sent out, or is it at a certain time and date to slot into the schedule?
No, you get to choose. So I usually do it, I don't know, like 7 to 10 days before an event is when I would schedule like a program announcement. Services don't really matter as much, but the only restriction is because the standard messages come at 4:15 every day. And so that we don't overlap with that, we have, it can go between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., but any date of your choice.
Okay, that's great to know.
Yeah, and you schedule it, you choose your time, and then you can cancel it if needed. And you can also see your past messages if you want to like copy it and redo it the next year, like send the same message. They're all available.
And then Leica put into chat, she said, thank you. We signed on recently and we will definitely up our marketing promotions.
And I don't think we said that it's in Spanish. So everything's in English and Spanish. And there's a guide that has some messages you can use on social media, and those are both in English and Spanish. So Sam was sharing both in the weekly e-news, both languages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have our weekly email newsletter that goes out, and we just have kind of a sample like activity each week, and we plug in the English and the Spanish version of that in the email every week. And that's pretty easy when you, like Jody was mentioning, that's right from the beginning. When you sign up, you can choose what language you want to use to receive it, and then it kind of caters to that.
And if somebody at your library has already signed up, and these toolkits I'm talking about, some of them are promotional materials, and then the other, that's how to partner, and there are guides in there, and there are how-to videos, like really short videos, like, okay, you just signed on, here are your 8 steps to get going. So you can find all of that. And then we periodically offer other trainings and things too, and we're always available to help if there's a question that pops up.
Do we have any other questions out there this morning? Well, while you think about it, I'm going to let you know coming up next month for our February meeting. I should look at what the day is. It's going to be the 3rd Tuesday as always, and that will be the 15th, so the day after Valentine's Day. Where Katie's going to come back and to talk about Instagram. It'll be slightly different than her last presentations, and this time, hopefully, for whatever reason, the recording missed some key little file part, so I could not share that. So this time it will be recorded and shared on. And today's meeting being, and Katie said, put in the chat, if anyone has any questions that they'd want her to include in her presentation, her email is in the chat, or it's krockley@northvillelibrary.org. So think about how you want to use, any Instagram questions right now for both Katie, and if you have any questions for Jody or Sam, feel free to text or chat. We're talking about text so much that's in my brain right now. Feel free to put in the chat, email them, or unmute yourself and chime in now. Well, everybody's got a couple of thank yous to Sam and Jody in the chat coming through. All righty, well, I don't see any more questions coming up, so thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks again, guys.
And everyone have a great rest of your January. Stay warm. Hopefully we get some snow that we can enjoy. Or I'm speaking from the Detroit area, so we don't have much snow. If you're further in the state, I hope you have it and are enjoying it. I love snow, so I'm looking for the big snowfall. Thank you, everybody.